Today, we're going to be tackling a project that is not just practical, it is essential if you're serious about being prepared for the unexpected. I'm going to be showing you how to turn a 55-gallon steel drum into a DIY Faraday cage. Plus, we're going to build a couple other smaller Faraday cages for free from stuff that you probably have just laying around your house. This simple project can protect your critical electronics from things like EMPs and solar flares. But before we build it, let's just talk a little bit about Faraday cages and why they are so important. So what's the deal with EMPs and solar flares? Well, let me break it down for you just a little bit. Electromagnetic pulses, or EMPs, they can occur naturally from things like solar flares or solar storms, or they can happen artificially by nuclear weapons detonated high up in the atmosphere. Either way, they can fry your critical, unprotected electronics. In fact, back in 2008, Congress released a report warning about the catastrophic impact of an EMP attack and what would happen to our nation. They said that an EMP attack could cripple our critical infrastructure, that's our power grid, our transportation system, and even medical services. They estimated that 90% of the population would die within 1 year. This isn't just tinfoil hat conspiracy theory stuff, right? This isn't just hypothetical. Let's rewind just a little bit back to 1859 and the Carrington event. A massive solar flare struck the earth, frying telegraph systems worldwide. The northern lights could be seen all the way down in Cuba. People could read the newspaper outside at midnight. Some religious folks thought that it was the end of the world. If something like that could happen back then, something like that could happen today as well. And it wouldn't just be the telegraph system that gets fried. It would be our satellites. It would be our internet. It would be our electronics. Pretty much everything that we rely on for modern life would be fried. You know, and it's not just a matter of if it could happen again. It's really a matter of when will it happen again. A Faraday cage acts like an electronic safe house, shielding our critical devices from events like this. It's one of the simplest and the most effective ways that we can prepare for what could happen. If you think that something like this might happen, what are the top 3 devices that you would want to protect in a Faraday cage that you would have access to when the entire grid goes down? Let me know down in the comments below. I think that your ideas can really help a lot of people out. Here's a fun fact. The Faraday cage is named after a guy named Michael Faraday, who discovered in the 1800s that you could block electromagnetic fields using a conductive enclosure. He wasn't thinking about EMPs or solar flares, but his invention, it did lay the foundation for what preppers use today to protect their gear. You know, and you might not realize it, but you probably used a Faraday cage today. Microwaves, MRI rooms, even airplane cabins, right? They all incorporate Faraday principles to protect or to contain electromagnetic fields. So it's not just for preppers, right? These things are everywhere and we use them every day. What do you think? Are EMPs and solar flares a realistic threat? Why or why not? I'd love to hear your perspective. Let me know down in the comments below. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. Building our Faraday cage. Here's what you need. You need a clean 55-gallon steel drum with a tight-fitting lid. You're going to need some aluminum foil, some packing tape, and some cardboard. But before we start building that, let's just take a quick word from our sponsor. You know, did you know that your personal information is being bought and sold online? Data brokers are collecting and selling your private details like your address, your phone number, even your relatives' information is being sold to anyone who's willing to pay. This puts us at serious risk. Think about it. Harassment, stalking, fishing expeditions, even identity theft, right? It's scary how easy it is for bad actors to find and exploit our information. That is why we personally use and recommend Delete Me. They specialize in finding and removing your private information from these sites, right? Just look at our dashboard, right? They have scanned 118 data brokers. 19 of them have our personal information in them. And here is a list of what Delete Me is currently working on cleaning up. And so it's a huge relief knowing that our information is being taken off the market. And so if you would like to take control of your privacy, you can use our code MARTIN for 20% off a Delete Me plan. There is a link down in the description below, or you can scan the QR code that is on the screen here. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect yourself and your family now. I want to thank Delete Me for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to building that Faraday cage. All right, so we've got our steel drum. Our drum here had mango pulp in it, and it's clean. It doesn't smell like mangoes or anything like that. It's got the nice, tight fitting lid. And so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is trace out the top of the drum so that we can cut a cardboard circle out of it. And we're gonna take that cardboard circle and we're gonna put it all the way down in the bottom. We're gonna put 2 layers of cardboard down in the bottom to insulate any of our electronics from touching something metal inside of the can. Now that we've got the bottom insulated, we're gonna wanna take another piece of cardboard and roll it up so that it will more easily conform to the inside walls of the drum. And so we've got it rolled up. We're going to put it in here, and then we're going to trace along the top here so that we can cut it off and it will fit down in there. You want to make sure that you cut it low enough so that when you put the lid on, the lid can fit nice and tight. We're going to want to cut another piece of round cardboard to fit right on the top of that cardboard cylinder that we just put in there, and that way we insulate anything from accidentally touching the bottom side of the lid. So now that we have all of the inside insulated here, we need to work on the gasket. I want you to notice here we've got a nice rubber gasket inside of the lid here. We're going to take that gasket out, and then we need to sand the top of the drum, and we need to sand the inside of the lid where that gasket was to make sure that we have a good connection, a good electrical connection between the drum and the lid. And that way, everything will be sealed up 100% inside our Faraday cage. So now that we have all of that sanded, we want to take our tin foil and we want to line the inside of the lid where the gasket was. So once we get all of that tin foil in there nice and neat, we're going to replace our gasket back inside the tin foil and then just kind of fold it over a little bit. So basically we have wrapped our gasket in tin foil. Then we'll place the lid back on top of the drum and press it down to make sure that that gasket is seated in there and the aluminum foil is conformed to the gasket and the top of the drum. Now we'll just cut off the excess tin foil here and test fit it again. Everything seems to be fitting and working fine. Now we can go ahead and load up our drum with whatever electronics we want to save. Put the lid back on, put the ring on, close it up, and everything is safe inside. All right, so the question is, how do we know that it works? Well, let's take it outside and test it. You can hear NOAA weather radio. That's what we're gonna use because I don't wanna get a copyright strike. So we'll lower it down in there. This is already gonna work, some probably. Static. Just because it's inside of this, right? It already blocked the radio waves. That's one of the ways that people use to test it. You can also test it with your cell phone, like put your cell phone in there, but I'm recording with my phone. If you can't call yourself, well, it's blocking cell signals, right? So you can go ahead and test them that way as well. Now, before we go and build the 2 smaller ones, just from stuff we've got laying around the house, I want to let you know that we made a free printable checklist of the most important items that you are going to want to store in a Faraday cage and why they're going to be important to have if we're attacked by an EMP or there's like a massive solar flare. You can download that checklist. There's a link down in the description below, or you can scan the QR code that is on the screen here. It's 100% free and will get you set up for what to put inside your Faraday cage. All right, let's get to building those smaller ones. A popcorn tin and a cookie tin. I mean, these things are laying around all over the place after the holidays. If you don't have a bunch of them, your friends or your family probably do, and they would be happy to give them to you. So we need the popcorn tin and the cookie tin. We're gonna need some aluminum foil, some tape, and some cardboard. We're gonna follow the same process that we did with the steel drum. We're gonna cut out 2 circles for the bottom. Then we're gonna line the sides with the cardboard and tape and make sure it's all nice and good and insulated so that whatever type of electronics we put in there can't touch the sides or the bottom. Then we want to go ahead and cut a circle for the top to protect it from touching the bottom side of the lid. And now that we've got all of our insulation ready to go, we're going to take it all back out and we're going to put a flashlight down inside the bottom of the popcorn tin. Go into the closet, we'll shut the door, and we're going to look up at the lid and see if we can see any light coming through the lid. If we see any light, we know that we have a leak and our Faraday cage is not 100% sealed. And so that's the case, right? We do have a leak. We can see light coming through the lid. So we're going to make a gasket out of tinfoil. Fold up the tinfoil over itself a bunch of times, and then we're going to wrap that around the top of the popcorn tin and cut it off to the right size. Then we're just going to fold it over and we're going to get a much tighter fit on that lid, and hopefully we'll seal it up and we won't be able to see any light. All right, let's put the lid back on and we'll go back into the closet and see if we can't see any light. All right, so we're good to go. The gasket works. Just follow the exact same process, right, for the cookie tin. It's the exact same thing. Now you can take these principles and you can make Faraday cages out of all different types of metal containers. The one thing that you want to be careful about is to make sure that there are no gaps anywhere. The simplest way to do that is just to put a light in it, close it up, go into a dark room and see if you can see any light shining out anywhere. If you can, you're going to want to seal those up with maybe aluminum tape or some other type of metallic sealing thing. Tinfoil works really good for that as well. All right, so there we've got it, right? We've got our Faraday cage that is going to store all types of electronics. We've got a couple smaller ones that we can use to store smaller electronics. Just put them on the shelf in the closet and forget about them until you really need them. And don't forget, guys, to download our free checklist. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and that you have fun making your Faraday cages. I hope you guys have a really great day and keep smiling.